Hello everyone, and welcome to our tax webinar, Getting Ready for Tax Season with Square. Before we jump in, we want to mention we're not able to offer tax advice. If you have questions about filing your taxes, you'll need to reach out to an accountant or a tax professional. We'll only be going over your tax resources, reporting, and official forms offered by Square for qualifying accounts. Here's a quick preview of our agenda. First, we'll give a brief overview of the Form 1099-K and how to qualify for one. Then we'll talk about how to update your taxpayer information and how to correct a Form 1099-K. After that, we'll talk about what it means if you received a B notice and what to do to correct it. Finally, in case you don't qualify for a 1099-K, we'll show you how to review your 2021 sales and fees. With that, let's jump right in. A 1099-K is a tax document reflecting any and all card payments processed through your Square account. Payment settlement entities, like Square, are required by the IRS to report card payments and issue a Form 1099-K if your account passes a certain threshold. 1099-Ks are calculated on the gross total card payments accepted in a calendar year. So if you processed a card payment but later issued a refund, we're still required by the IRS to report the original payment amount. For example, let's say you tapped your customer's card for $100. The Square fee for card-present transactions is 2.6% plus 10 cents. We'll deduct $2.70 and transfer $97.30 to your linked bank account. However, we're required by the IRS to report the full $100 processed. As a result, the net totals deposited to you won't match the amounts on your 1099-K. In this example, your 1099-K would reflect $100 and your bank statement would reflect $97.30. Also keep in mind, we're required to aggregate and report for all Square accounts associated with the same TIN, including Cash App for Business transactions. TIN stands for Taxpayer Identification Number, and it could be either your Employer Identification Number, or EIN, or a Social Security number, say if you're a sole proprietor. Now, it's important to keep in mind that not every business uses an EIN. Just make sure your TIN matches what the IRS has on file for your business. Before jumping into qualifications, it's important to bear in mind that the 1099-K thresholds vary depending on your state. We'll cover the thresholds for most states first, and then touch on states with different thresholds. Generally, accounts meeting both of the following criteria qualify for a 1099-K and must be reported to the IRS by Square. If you process more than $20,000 in gross card sales and more than 200 transactions in a calendar year, Square is required to report that information to the IRS. For example, let's say you have two accounts with Square, and both accounts process $10,000 in card sales and 100 transactions in 2021. The total for both accounts will equal $20,000 and 200 transactions, which means you'll receive a 1099-K for both accounts. There are states that have unique qualifying thresholds. If your tax information is associated with Massachusetts, Vermont, District of Columbia, Maryland, or Virginia, Square is required to issue a Form 1099-K and report to your state when you process $600 or more in card payments. If your tax information is associated with Illinois, and you process more than $1,000 in card payments and more than 3 transactions, Square is required to issue a Form 1099-K and report to your state. If your tax information is associated with Missouri, 1099-K reporting is required when you process $1,200 or more in card payments. The reporting thresholds are based on the total gross sales volume processed under the same TIN. If you have multiple Square accounts with the same TIN, each account will count towards the gross card sales. Speaking of unique thresholds, we want to take a second to flag an upcoming change to tax threshold for the 2022 tax year. This change will not affect your tax filing for 2021. We want to make sure you keep it in mind for payments processed in 2022. Beginning January 1st, 2022, all accounts, regardless of the U.S. state, that process $600 or more in gross card sales qualify for a Form 1099-K and must be reported to the IRS by Square. If you qualify for a 1099-K, you can view and download your form right from your online Square dashboard. Log into square.com/dashboard and go to Accountant Settings. Under the Business tab, click Tax Forms. If you qualified for a 1099-K in 2021, you'll find it here no later than January 31st, 2022. If you have 1099-Ks from previous years, they'll always be available for you to view or download from your online Square dashboard. You may need to update your taxpayer and 1099-K information, not because of an issue with the IRS, but maybe because you entered your personal SSN instead of your business's EIN. That's an issue we see pretty often. The good news is, once we issue a Form 1099-K to your account for the current tax year, you'll have a small window of time where updating your taxpayer information from your dashboard will also update your 1099-K. If your new taxpayer information is accepted, but your 1099-K doesn't update, you'll need to contact us so we can update your form for you. To update your taxpayer information, log into your dashboard and head to Accountant Settings. Under the Business tab, select Tax Forms. You'll see your taxpayer information. To update, just click on the location name and enter your updated information. As long as the information matches what the IRS has on file, save your new taxpayer information. Keep in mind though, Square checks with the IRS in real time. If your name or TIN number isn't accepted, you'll need to double check your records. Check your EIN verification letter or a previous tax return, or contact the IRS directly. It's also important to note that Square won't split a Form 1099-K or issue a 1099-K reflecting $0. You'll need to contact a tax professional if you need help amending your tax documents. Let's say you missed the window of time to auto-update your 1099-K, or you need to update your 1099-K for a previous tax year. In order to update your 1099-Ks for previous years, you'll need to contact us directly. I'll go over the documents we'll need to help us expedite the process. The first step is to update your taxpayer information from your online Square dashboard by heading to Accountant Settings again, and under the Business tab, select Tax Forms. To update, just click on the location name and enter your updated information. Next, we'll need you to email Square a copy of an official bank statement with your bank's letterhead, showing deposits from Square to your business. The statement can show any month from the year you're requesting an updated Form 1099-K, and should include your full bank statement, not just a single page. If you're requesting multiple 1099-Ks, make sure to include a bank statement for each correlating year. Also keep in mind, if you have multiple bank accounts in the year that needs correction, we'll need a statement from each bank account that received deposits from Square. Your bank account statement should clearly show the following: official bank letterhead with your bank's logo, the bank holder's name and address. The bank account holder's name and address need to match the name and information in your online Square dashboard under taxpayer information, the bank account number, or the last 3 digits of the account if you're using a credit union. Deposits from Square in the same year as your requested 1099-K. When your taxpayer information, TIN name combination, doesn't match with the IRS's records, Square is required to issue a B notice to your account. You'll receive a notification letter and email from our teams with the required due date to update your information. If you do not submit the required documentation by the due date, your Square account will be deactivated. Again, this will only happen if your taxpayer information isn't correct, so it's important to update your information as soon as possible. Visit square.com/help and search B Notice for more information. If you don't qualify for a 1099-K, you can still take a look at your sales summary. Your online Square dashboard hosts a suite of reporting tools to help you drill down on sales. So let's walk through where you can find that information right now. Visit the sales page of your online Square dashboard. First, use the filter to look at a specific time frame. If you created and collected sales tax, you can see the total amount, as well as the total gross sales and your total net sales. A lot of sellers ask us where they can view their fees paid to Square. Your transaction and summary of fees will populate for the date range you selected. If you'd like, click Export to download a CSV spreadsheet. You can pass the exported sales report to your tax professional or keep a copy for your files. You now know all about the tools, reporting, and forms offered by Square to help prepare you for tax season. You've learned about Form 1099-Ks, what they are, what they include, and how they're calculated, but you also learned about adding or updating your taxpayer information, B notices, and what to do if you're not receiving a 1099-K this year. If you have additional questions, you can head to sellercommunity.com or square.com/help and search 1099-K.